Okay, so melodic minor arpeggios. I have talked about that before, and in this video, I want to do several things. I'm going to try to kill several birds with one stone here. First off, it's a remake kind of a video I did a while back. And that video, the audio quality is terrible because I had just gotten new recording gear, and to be honest, I didn't know how to use it, obviously. So the volume is really low. You can still watch it, but people tell me to turn it up, but I can't do anything once the video is uploaded. So I'm gonna repeat some of the stuff I'm saying in that video. But I also want to take a look at a different chord progression this time. In that video, I talk about what is this thing called love. In this video, I want to look at the last chords of Stella by Starlight and the chord progression that you can find there. I also want to try to answer a question from the comment section to that video. I say in that video that there are certain arpeggios that work better than others, and I realized that I didn't necessarily explain or clarify why that is, so I'm gonna try to do that in this video. Also, at the end, I'm gonna try to expand on the concept of arpeggios or arpeggios from melodic minor, and see if there are arpeggios that are not 4-part chords, kind of tying it into what I talked about in the last video where I talked about major 7 flat 5 arpeggios. So enough talking. I'm just gonna take the chord progression here and play some arpeggios, and then I'll explain as we go what the hell I'm doing. So there, I'm playing minor, major 7 arpeggios over each of the chords of that progression. So the chord progression, the chords that we find there at the end of Stella by Starlight are E minor 7 flat 5, A7 altered, D minor 7 flat 5, G altered, C minor 7 flat 5, F altered to B flat major. That's when you have minor 2/5s moving in parallel motion like that. There are other tunes, Woody and You. By the way, if you know more tunes that have that progression, please let me know in the comments, because I'm kind of working on this progression right now, and I want to say that there is a Wayne Shorter tune that has this progression. I can't remember right now. So I want you to ask yourself, do you master this progression as well as you should? Because I'm not sure that I do. When I play Stella by Starlight, you know, the chords are 2/5s, there are a couple of dominant chords, everything is fine, and all of a sudden you end up at this chord progression. And we're a little bit in a problem area because it's trickier than you might realize. I've also talked about this tune and this chord progression in previous videos, that there are different ways that you can treat this chord progression, and you can replace the chords with other chords. But for the sake of argument for this video, I'm gonna treat each chord as a mode of the melodic minor. Right? So there's 2 ways you can look at that. You can think of it as E Locrian natural 2 to A altered, to D Locrian natural 2, G altered, C Locrian natural 2 to F altered. But you could also kind of transpose it, right? So thinking of what Mick Goodrick calls the parent scale. So E Locrian natural 2 is derived from G melodic minor. A altered is derived from B flat melodic minor. And that's what I did. I just took the first arpeggio from those melodic minor scales. So G minor major 7 arpeggio, which is the first arpeggio of G melodic minor. That arpeggio works great over E minor 7 flat 5. And then B flat minor major 7 over A, which gives me an altered sound. So the G minor major 7 arpeggio over E gives me a minor 3rd, flat 5, flat 7, and the 9th. And over A altered, if I play a B flat minor major 7, the first arpeggio from B flat melodic minor, I get the flat 9, the major 3rd, which technically is of altered 4th, the flat 4, and the sharp 5, and the root. So you want to practice that like I just did. And obviously you don't want to do what I'm doing. Ultimately you don't want to do just move them in parallel motion like that. You want to be able to do it anywhere on the fretboard, any position, any kind of fingering, right? But in order to make this video not too long, I'm just gonna keep it simple and do that for now. Another thing to consider is something else that I've talked about before, and that is make sure that you can play the arpeggio ascending as well as descending, right? So if I play descending, it's a little bit trickier. Let me just demonstrate. Let's do that again. So these are minor, major 7, descending. All right, moving on. The next arpeggio we're going to look at is the minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio we can find on the 6th degree of the melodic minor scale. So the first one would be E minor 7 flat 5, which is the same, it happens to be the same as the chord, right? So it's a no-brainer. Then we just move that up a 3rd, minor 3rd, and we start on the flat 7 of the altered chord. So you're noticing that I'm playing the E minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio over the B flat major as well. Works really nicely over that. Now here I want to take a second and just focus on staying in a position or staying in one area of the fretboard. So this arpeggio, because the minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio is really important, and it's kind of one of those secrets of jazz that that arpeggio works over pretty much any chord, and it's a great arpeggio. But I noticed that we don't always know it as well. I just had a student the other day, we were playing Blue Bossa, right? And I told him, or I asked him to play arpeggios, and C minor, no problem, F minor. Now D minor 7 flat 5, and he's like struggling to find the notes. Yeah, you see that, and also the G7, if you play a G7 arpeggio, it sounds kind of lame. F minor 7 flat 5 over that G would work much better, or it would sound much hipper. So you want to master those arpeggios as well. Make sure that you know them in any position and all that. So if I do the same thing, but I try to stay in a reasonable area of the fretboard, so let's say I want to play something more musical, like a sequence or a pattern, like let's just demonstrate what I mean. So if you feel like, yeah, now you should work on that, maybe my minor 7 flat 5 arpeggios aren't as strong as they should be, now it's time to work on that. The third arpeggio from the melodic minor scale, if we treat them just like 4-part chords, is the major 7 sharp 5 arpeggio that we can find on the 3rd degree of the melodic minor scale. So if I'm playing of the first chord, I will start on the flat 5 and play a B flat major 7 sharp 5 arpeggio, and then on the altered chord I start on the major 3rd, which technically is a flat 4. I also had an argument with somebody in the comment section about this. He wouldn't accept that it's a flat 4, but I also think of it as a major 3rd because it's easier, but sometimes it makes more sense to think of it as a flat 4. But anyway, for now, it's a major 3rd. So let me just play these arpeggios. Or as chords. Being a little bit bold there and playing the major 7 sharp 5 over the last chord as well. You can do that all depending on the context. If you are playing on a bandstand with really happening musicians, you can do that if they can kind of pick up on what's going on. But if you're comping on a wedding gig, a singer, I wouldn't necessarily play that voicing. So it depends on the context. Okay, now I want to explain what I didn't explain in the previous video I did on this topic, and that is why I picked these 3 arpeggios. Because obviously from a melodic minor scale we can create 7 arpeggios. So if I take E melodic minor, for example, and play them as broken chords or arpeggios, I get minor major 7, minor 7, major 7 sharp 5, dominant, dominant, minor major 7, sorry, minor 7 flat 5, and minor 7 flat 5, minor major 7. That's a good exercise, by the way, to play them arpeggios like that. Okay, all those arpeggios are from Melodic Minor. So that means you could play any of those arpeggios over any chord from Melodic Minor. There are no void note, as it were. For example, in this book that I got ages ago when I was like, I don't know, 17, this is the second book 2 of Frank Gambale's technique books, where he basically talks about scales and arpeggios. He says that you can play any of these arpeggios over any chord, and that is true, but some of them work better than others, and some of them define the melodic minor sound more. If you think about it, if you want to create the melodic minor sound, you can play melodic minor chord, you can play a minor major 7 chord. That is melodic minor. Could be harmonic minor too, but most people, I think, hear melodic minor when they hear this chord. Also on the 3rd degree, if I play a G major 7 sharp 5, it sounds like melodic minor, E melodic minor. If I play a C sharp minor 7 flat 5, also sounds like melodic minor, okay? Because it gives us those important notes that kind of define that scale and that sound. If I play A7, also from that scale, but it doesn't give me that feeling of E melodic minor, right? It sounds like A7. Do you know what I mean? So chances are, if I play this, for example, G major 7 sharp 5, chances are that you're actually hearing this. You're kind of adding that bass note in your mind. That's why a lot of people get this wrong in the ear training class. When you play a melodic, you play a major 7 sharp 5, they say minor. Is this a major chord or minor chord? A lot of people say minor because they're hearing this. They're adding a bass note in their mind, and this chord, the C sharp minor 7 flat 5, is just an inversion of E minor 6, right? So also strong E minor sound. By the way, this is the James Bond chord, right? It's just a G major 7 sharp 5 over E, which creates an E minor major 9 chord. So that's why we're favoring those 3 arpeggios. Again, you could play all the other arpeggios as well. It wouldn't clash, but it also wouldn't define the sound, which is what we're trying to do here. So I hope that explains better the confusion there. Now, the last chord we played was the major 7 sharp 5. That brings us to the last lesson I made, the major 7 flat 5. You could just replace that major 7 sharp 5 with the major 7 flat 5 instead. Works even better, I think. So, as arpeggios, of course. that's what I talked about in my last video, right? It's a major 7 flat 5 arpeggio. So you might want to look at that video if you haven't seen it. So what's going on here is that we're kind of creating a arpeggio that is not one of the 4-part chords from the harmonized melodic minor scale. So let me repeat that. So when you harmonize the melodic minor scale, you get a bunch of chords. But here we took one of those arpeggios and changed a note, the sharp 5 to a flat 5 instead, which technically is a sharp 11. That makes me wonder, is there another arpeggio we can do, create the same way? And yes, there is. For example, the good old Cry Me a River arpeggio, which is a minor 9, a minor triad with an added 9. Okay, so let's see what that sounds like. Okay, so that was the Cry Me a River lick that I've also covered in the previous lesson. It works almost too perfect. You want to be a little bit careful with that because it sounds too cliche, right? And I remember a friend of mine who's a musician, but he's not a jazz musician. He told me he went to a jazz concert and he told me that all he could hear was like bee dee bee bop, bee dee bee bop. Well, he was like, why are they always playing bee dee bee bop? I don't know. It's a jazz cliche. So you don't want to overdo it, but if you play it in the right moment and with the right attitude, it can be perfect. Also, really good ear training exercise, because play the first chord and sing that arpeggio, play the next chord and sing that. You should be able to do that really strong, so you're really playing the notes perfectly. Then it can help you to find the important notes of something that is actually pretty tricky. An altered scale is not, to hear altered is not easy. This can really help you with that if you're struggling with that. Then there's another thing you can do. You can take the D triad of the G melodic minor and add a B flat. So let's see what that sounds like. D triad with a B flat. Yeah, that's something I can explore. I noticed that I wasn't as sure at all as I thought I was, so that's something I'm going to work on. And yeah, that was my remake of my old video of melodic minor arpeggios. So I hope you got something. If you watched that video, maybe you got something out of this, watching this as well. And a big thank you again to my patrons. And I did a live stream. Didn't work as well as I was hoping because I noticed that I wasn't sure how to sync the Patreon live stream with the YouTube live stream. So I have to figure out how to do that. I might have to get some software, live streaming software. So I'm going to look into that. I have a month because I'm going to try to live stream at the end of each month, right? The last Saturday of each month. And also the audio was terrible, so I'm gonna see how I can improve that using my Zoom, I guess, as a microphone, USB microphone. Yeah, I'm learning as I go. And with all that, I hope that was useful for you, and I shall see you next time.